I'm in Arizona. It's the first week of June. It's going to be 111 degrees today. It's awesome. It reminds me of 8 years spent in Las Vegas. I'm down here to help Nate. He's got a project started that he's been working on for a long time, getting going on this site, and we're going to show you a lot of it. It's not a super complex project, except every construction project has the potential of being complex. So I'm going to be coming down here from time to time, kind of helping Nate out and doing the things that I can do to move his project forward and helping produce the content so you can see what he's got going. So in this part of Arizona, and perhaps where you live, you can't do much without a building permit. In some places, you can't even move much dirt without a building permit. And so Nate found himself in a situation here where, as he was waiting for his permit, really all he could do was remove the brush, essentially landscaping. So this piece of ground, as far as anybody knows, has never been built on. And so it was covered with palo verde and mesquite and other desert sage and tumbleweeds and who knows what. There was a lot of it. So Nate's got that swept off pretty clean. It's ready to kind of start grading and those sorts of things. Except now, and in most projects, once you have the permit in hand, the first thing you have to tend to is underground utilities. The grading here is not extensive, but there is some cut and some fill. And so that has to be kept in mind at all times when you're putting in the underground utilities. Underground utilities have to be in the right location after the grading is done. And so the surveyor comes in and he sets some pins and he gives some cut and fill mark, and then the backhoe goes to work. It costs money to do these things. And one of the reasons it costs money to dig these holes is because of the liability that comes along with digging a hole in the ground. Even though you do call before you dig, you just don't know what can happen. You just don't know if somebody has put something else in there that is not on the public record. You don't know if there's going to be a monsoon come through and fill this trench up with water and the thing collapses and it's got to be done again. You just don't know. There's just a wide range of things that can happen that are expensive associated with excavation. That's a pretty good justification for hiring somebody that really knows how. The digging that you're watching is being done to the exact specifications detailed on our plans. The plans show the depth, the location, the size of the conduit, and a whole lot more information that will be inspected and that needs to be exactly as drawn. In this case, the location of the digging was laid out or located by a surveyor. The surveyor established not just the location of the trench and the transformer pad that will be installed, but the current elevation of the site compared to the finished elevation at the location of the trench. This is what tells the contractor how deep to dig. The power company specifies that the trench needs to be 48 inches deep, but 48 inches from the final grade, the finish grade. To accommodate for the future grading that you will get a chance to see, much of the trench that we're putting in today is around 6 feet deep. If you're interested in the costs of these things, they're all shared with you on my Patreon page, along with other details, which will grow as the project moves forward about what type of storage facility we're putting in here. So when you get a quote from a backhoe service and he tells you his rate is $80 or $90 or $120 or whatever it is where you live, and you choke and you think, well, how can it be worth that much money? Well, it costs a ton of money to own these things. This is a nice cat backhoe. Extend to boom. You see how the jib on that boom extends? What a beautiful feature that is. And how often it breaks down. And even though this is a nice fresh machine, there are things that happen that wear out and that grease will not preserve indefinitely. And so don't resent too deeply the fact that these things are expensive, and concentrate instead on how wonderfully efficient these guys are at getting the dirt out of the ground and then putting it back when you need it, where you need it, and with no problems. So the power company does the actual connection of the lines that will be put in these conduits to the existing power lines, and they set the transformer. In our case, they even dig the last 2 feet of this trench up to the existing power lines. That's the very technical and precise digging that is a high-stakes game around the actual energized lines. Even though electrical is the only underground utility that's happening, now this may be different for your project. I mean, there's water and there's sewer and there's gas and there's all the utilities that modern construction can use. On this project, electricity is pretty much it, but electricity is a big deal.